So before I get started with this video, I really need to make a special shout out to Geekdom 101 and Rhymestyle for the recent support of my channel. Honestly, on the same day that I posted the 200 subscriber special, they gave me a special shout out and they really started supporting me. I got more than 100 subscribers in one day. That's incredible, especially for someone of my size. Honestly, this really couldn't be better. These guys are so freaking nice. And I definitely wouldn't be here this fast without them and their support. I just can't believe it. I'm like so humbled, guys. You have no idea. Anyway, but like the one thing that the kindness of them and the kindness of other YouTubers that I've actually come to know in this has really taught me is that despite all the infighting and miscommunication that comes in YouTube or any other community that you actually get onto online, we're all still kind of united for the love and passion of our particular choice of topics. And if I can give any advice to any newer YouTubers or people who might be on the fence about whether or not to make a YouTube channel, it would really just be to go for it. Video editing and sound quality and all that stuff just really doesn't matter at the very beginning as long as you have passion for what you're talking about. But beyond anything, I think everyone kind of has to remember that when you're making your own videos on YouTube, you have to be you. You really can't be anyone else. You can't be Rhymestyle, and you can't be Geekdom, you can't be Quaman, you can't be D-Free, you can't be Mike from Laughingstock Media, you can't be anybody but you. You know, these people might have been the ones who inspired you to actually make the YouTube channel in the first place, but your ultimate goal in all this is to shift the ongoing discussion that those YouTubers are already having and kind of put your own spin on it and make them notice you that way, not just being a duplicate copy of those people. And as long as you stay positive and are very, very consistent about like your upload schedule or at least your enthusiasm about everything in the community, these people will notice you. Whether you're big or small, it will happen eventually because these people are really nice and they do want to like open up their arms to bigger and smaller YouTubers as long as they're willing to actually be kind and considerate of other people's opinions. And I really, really appreciate that. And I don't really think I would be here without them and all their support that they've given me. So honestly, guys, I'm super humbled and I just really want to say that. I want to make that very clear to everyone watching this video. But anyway, let's get down to the real main point of this video, and that is my huge freaking batshit crazy, never gonna happen in a million years, but wouldn't it be interesting for these particular reasons, Dragon Ball Super ending theory. Which coincidentally was actually kind of supposed to be like 3 theories, but I actually kind of had to smush them together because honestly, it actually worked better as one cohesive idea instead of like 3 separate theories that kind of fed into each other one way or the other. So anyway, I just want to warn y'all that there are potential spoilers for like the first 37 episodes and thus like 9 or 10 chapters of Dragon Ball Super, the manga, honestly, and also the Toritaro and Toriyama interview that was in the first volume of Dragon Ball Super. So with that being said, I just really want to get right into this. One of the most glaring errors that Super has made during its short run is the noticeable absence between Vegeta and Bulma's second child, their daughter Brawl, who makes a brief appearance during the events of the 28th World Tournament at the end of Dragon Ball Z. Now that's actually really curious to me because all the other newly introduced characters from that particular point in the series canon have already been introduced, with Pan being born and Oob's actual presence being discussed in episode 30, even though nobody really knew about him at the end of Z. Now, while you can either argue that Brawl actually has like no real significance at the end of Dragon Ball Z and Toriyama just might have forgotten about her, or the fact that Bulma could have actually given birth to Brawl and is simply keeping her away from harm by keeping her away from the tournament, I find that really hard to believe because when Bulma had Trunks, she definitely took him everywhere during the Android saga and early Cell games and all that other stuff. She didn't necessarily want to keep him out of harm's way, so that's really not a characteristic of Bulma in the first place. Plus, I also find it really hard to believe that Bulma wouldn't want to bring Brawl, especially when Videl is bringing Pan to the tournament anyways. So why is it that Brawl is the only character that Toriyama has actually really forgotten about? Did he actually just forget about her? But why wouldn't actually anyone mention it to him? It's not like her presence would actually harm the current story that's being told anyway. But what if it actually would? And Brawl's existence in the Dragon Ball universe is going to be the result of the resolution of a catastrophic event that Super has been leading up to this entire time. Now, in order to explain this, I have to explain a few things that I've come to understand about the story of Dragon Ball Super thus far. First off, even before the start of Dragon Ball Super, we've been hearing speculations about the significance and power of the Super Dragon Balls. Even now, almost a year after the fact, we're still very unclear about their actual significance in the series, despite both the manga and the anime going way out of their way to explain their entire origin and history. So if you can imagine, at this point, we as an audience are supposed to be very invested about the potential wish that's going to be coming from the victor of the tournament. And as such, there's been a load of speculation about the repercussions that that wish might have. However, there are currently only 6 Super Dragon Balls in Champa's possession, and if the recent leaks from episode 40 are to be believed, there's potentially a mysterious fighter that's going to be stepping in during the aftermath of the Universal Tournament that will potentially distract everyone involved. To me, that distraction would be a great excuse for a character like Hit to slip away from the tournament ring and steal the cube for his own doing. In episode 35 of Dragon Ball Super, it was subtly confirmed that, like Frost, Hit has the ability to breathe in space, and that the cube was the prize he's actually competing for in the tournament. And from the looks of it in episode 32, the person who's actually driving this cube has to be outside in order to drive it. Considering Whis' sociable nature, I find it really hard to believe that he would choose to stay outside the cube when everyone else is conversing in the inside. So that leads me to believe that someone who actually has to drive the cube has to be able to breathe in space. So a character like Hit who can breathe in space is probably the prime suspect of someone who would actually steal the cube going forward. Moving on, in episode 37, Champa confirms that the cube is actually not bound by space and time and can simply travel between other universes. Lastly, in a recent interview between Toriyama and Toritaro, it was kind of stated that Toriyama was excited to explore other universes outside the 2 that have already been introduced. If you ask me, I believe that it is possible that the upcoming distraction from the tournament's aftermath could be a way to use the cube to distract the audience's attention away from the Super Dragon Balls and away from the petty bet between Beerus and Champa, with the God Cubes acting as universe-jumping MacGuffins that lead us into newer and more interesting stories going forward. So if you remember in the early days of Dragon Ball Super, the series introduced the concept of universe-busting degrees of power with God-tier characters, as well as multiple universes, and as I've already mentioned, the universe-hopping MacGuffin with seemingly no limitations between time and space. Lastly, the series has dedicated a ridiculous amount of time to Vegeta's character development, as he has been strictly divided between his own selfish pursuit of power and the relationship between Bulma. Basically, the whole reason that Brawl hasn't even been born into the series yet is because Vegeta is constantly away from Bulma training. So with all that being said, what if after the Universal Tournament, Hit or somebody else actually steals the cube, which leads everyone into new and exciting universes? When they arrive to fix the problem, the overall tone of the story darkens, and that leads to death and destruction on a universal scale. In particular, Bulma, who has gotten a large amount of screen time throughout this series. But even if it's not that, it would need to be something so devastating that it would require the one and only wish from the Super Dragon Balls to reverse the events of the entire series and leave Vegeta as the one and only character who actually remembers the events that took place during Dragon Ball Super. Now just think about this. We are aware from Dragon Ball Z that time travel works by creating alternate dimensions that don't affect the current timeline of the person who actually goes back. Super even brought up this again when Jocko told Bulma that the use of time travel is not only taboo but illegal for the Galactic Patrol. Furthermore, Super has already firmly limited the power of the Earth and Namekian Dragon Balls, as their power doesn't stretch across universes, while at the same time the Super Dragon Balls are said to be limitless in what they can accomplish. Ultimately, this leads to Vegeta having to use the Super Dragon Balls to reverse the events of the series in order to bring back those who have died and the universes that have been destroyed during the process of the final fights. Reversing all the meticulous steps that eventually led to their destruction in the first place, having Goku attend Bulma's party and Beerus oversleeping for a couple of years. Without Beerus, Bulma or someone else would have probably kept the Dragon Balls in their possession, and Frieza would have never actually been able to return, and Goku and Vegeta would have never actually gone to train with Whis. Thus, Beerus and Champa would never have a reason to challenge each other to a universal tournament, and no one would have ever gotten the opportunity to use the cube, while Champa most likely would have used his Super Dragon Ball wish to actually wish for more delicious food. But most importantly, Vegeta would have to finally make that transition between Saiyan Prince and naturalized Earthling by directly going against the words that he gave to Kaba in episode 37, giving up the strength that he has gained through the events of Super in order to save the woman that he loves. And ultimately, Brawl is the product of that sacrifice and the conclusion of the character arc that Vegeta has gone through since the beginning of Z, from a merciless killer to a stern father figure at the end of the series. Okay, so I know this is actually a really crazy idea and it puts a whole lot of emphasis on Vegeta as a character that we've never really seen before. But tell me what you guys think about this below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for all the support. I hope I can continue to make videos that you actually really enjoy or be like kind of thought-provoking or something, kind of offering some other kind of topics or way of looking at things that nobody else is talking about. Anyway, please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I love you all. Thank you so much.